What is going on, guys? Will Blandon, corporate hustler, aka nice guy driver. Just so you understand where I am on my journey, I do have a company. I'm not rich. I don't claim to have all the answers, but I'm further along than some of the people that may watch this video, because I've noticed a lot of you never even got started with one company. I'll tell you what I did wrong, because I'm willing to admit when I'm wrong. Is I went to this guy, E. Dean Cole, a few years back. I want to say like, 5 years back maybe. And I set up a holding company. Fast forward, I realized that was a mistake. And I'm going to go in and tell you why that was a mistake. Number one, I don't want to use the word necessarily scam, but he overpromised and under-delivered on a lot of things. So a lot of people, if you go to his YouTube channel, will say they got scammed by this guy because he didn't do half of what he said he would. They were supposed to not only set you up a company, but on your behalf, get you some business credit, which never happened. They didn't even set up the website properly, nothing. So I did learn some things from him, but I made a lot of mistakes. And I used to watch a lot of also Glendon Cameron, who was gung-ho about doing the holding company first. Now, I do agree at some point in your journey, you want a holding company. But here's where I went wrong is when you set up what I consider a traditional holding company, you want to set it up for anonymity. You want to set that up where it doesn't do business with anybody, and it's truly just the entity that controls your smaller companies later. What I didn't realize is you don't necessarily need a holding company in the beginning. I think doing a holding company first is for people that are already in business and starting over or rebuilding. I think now, in this current time of my journey, that you should actually set up not a company, a traditional holding company yet. I think you should set up an operational company because, number one, by being anonymous, you kind of defeat the whole point of going after certain lines of business and corporate credit, because you're trying to keep that company anonymous. And if you're applying for stuff, then what happens? They know who owns it. So I actually think you should do the reverse. If you don't have anything going, you should have a company or a lot of money. If you have a lot of money, this doesn't apply to you. But if you don't have a lot of money, you're like most of us, you're starting out broke, and you just have a job or some side hustles, I think you should set up an operational company, start making money first. It shouldn't be anonymous. It should be in your state. You're gonna tell everybody you own it. I think it shouldn't be complicated. It doesn't have to be anything other than like a LLC, because you're gonna let the world know you own it. You're gonna apply for credit, a corporate credit under that entity. Later, I believe you're gonna go back, set up the anonymous holding company, your living trust, and all these other things to own like your property and your smaller companies, and the company you got already established, which in my case is my holding company, because now I'm going to have to build a company to own this company because it's no longer anonymous. I've applied for a lot of things, and now everybody knows I own it. So it's no longer, and I do business with people, so it's no longer technically what I originally wanted it for. It's just a regular company at this point. The only thing anonymous about it, it's in the state of Wyoming. I set it up, but that's it. So there's nothing wrong with doing a holding company, but I think you gotta make some money first. You need to set up a company to make some money first. Set it up simple, LLC. I'm gonna actually do a whole course because I'm trying to do this for my transportation stuff. Now I'll give you my example, but it doesn't have to be transportation. It could be your babysit money, your dog walking money, you're doing some side hustle, landscaping or cleaning. I think you should go set up the operational company first. In my case, transportation. I'm an Uber and Lyft driver, and most of my content is based around rideshare, gig economy. Sorry, my eyes are watering because of my allergies. So set up the LLC, basic LLC first. I prefer to get it taxed as a C Corp, but talk to your tax professional. Build some corporate business credit. In my case, transportation is going to give me a lot of what? Gas cards. But you can get gas cards for any business. But the fact that I'll be in transportation gives me an excuse almost to go after a lot of gas cards, which are probably the easier ones to give you the bigger lines. So set your LLC up. I'm going to go through a course format by format, how to do the business name, where to actually go to set it up, how you should not be your own registered agent, how your email should match your business domain, where to go for your business domain. You should have a 1-800 number. I'm going to go step by step through all these. And I'll let you guys know in the form of a link. It'll be on the bottom of the video at some point. So you start making some money. Here's the beauty part about this whole design. You don't gotta make a lot of money. You gotta make enough, obviously, to live off. So obviously, if you know about anything about rideshare, you know that it's currently not paying the best. So I'm transitioning to deliveries. But the only thing I like about gig economy apps is what do? They send the money directly to your bank account. So that's why I like setting those up, because it's sending money daily to your bank account. That's one reason why I like gig economy. That's probably one of the few reasons why I like gig economy. I'm sorry about the glare, but all of a sudden the sun comes out. It was like a cloudy day, now the sun's coming out. So once you hit, I would say on the lower scale, $4,000 a month. And you can pay yourself after this. I'm saying what's going into your bank account. At the low scale, $4,000 a month. On the higher scale, $5,000 or better. The banks will start lending you money, not just based around your credit score. But if you have a credit score of 680 and better, this will speed up your process, because you can guarantee your first couple of lines. I went to Navy Federal when my score was less than 600. I believe, if I were to guess, I believe I had a 575 credit score. There's no lie. 575 credit score. And they gave me a cash rewards card, Navy Federal, $5,000 credit line. I'm not going to say everybody's going to get that, but I'm just telling you what happened to me. Navy Federal pulled back a little bit. They're not giving the big lines, but literally like 6 months before I got my card, they were giving out even higher lines. They pulled back a little bit, so you may only get $2,000, you know, $2,500, whatever the case may be, or just start out with their card where you just deposit money on, and they give you a line based on that. But Navy Federal is where I have my current business account. That's why I'm going to be talking about a lot about Navy Federal. I have a whole video about when I went to apply, what I did. I might link that video below. But you only need like $5,000 going in your business bank account, and the banks will start giving you credit lines, lines of credit, cash in cards without necessarily a personal guarantee. Then later, what you're gonna do is go back. Let me get that glare off. Then later, we're gonna go back and set up all that other stuff that all these entrepreneurs are telling you about, which is a anonymous holding company. Now, why do you want to do the anonymous holding company? Because in the event, especially in my case, I'm having a transportation company. What if somebody crashes and kills somebody and they go after suing the company? Granted, you want to have business insurance and all that, but you want to be able to move money up to the owner of that company, which is the anonymous holding company, which they'll see me as an operational business owner, but they could obviously see that I sold the company to this anonymous holding company. You're actually going to do the paperwork, make it look like a real sale, exchange money like you really would, and now it's owned by this anonymous holding company. So you can move money. If you see the lawsuit coming, you don't want to do it right when it happens, but if you can predict some things are going to happen, you can move the majority of the money, if not all the money, up to the holding company, and now they can't touch it. Obviously, consult the lawyer. This is where I'm getting the information from. There's a law firm that I follow that is going over this stuff. I just break it down in a way that a lot of you can understand it, because they got, you know, all the big words, and, you know, they don't break it down in layman's terms. Now you have your anonymous holding company. It actually bought the operation company, in my case the transportation. Now what does that do for the holding company? Now you could go after business, you could actually apply for some lines of credit, but I wouldn't focus too much on building the credit on the holding company. I would focus on what assets that holding company is going to own. Like if you building out new companies, you want to build them out where they're automatically now owned by that holding company. But it all started with that one first operational company. That first operational company is where you should get your paycheck and everything else. I wouldn't even take out any money out the holding company in the beginning. I would have the money go up to that holding company, and then things start getting more complicated because you're starting to make some money. Now you know you can set up your living trust, which is, I probably would set up the living trust and the holding company up in the same year. So the living trust owns the holding company, and if you die, automatically your living trust has possession of everything, because everything is owned by the holding company that's already owned by your living trust. And nobody's going to know the living trust even owns that holding company. The only thing they're going to know that living trust owns is probably the home you live in and if you so choose, one personal car, which I wouldn't even put any of the cars in my living trust name even. I would actually put all the cars in that operational account or business, because cars are a liability. There's always something can happen. So at some point, I want any cars on my name. They'll all be owned by a company. The only thing really you want your living trust to own is, at some point, your paycheck will go to your trust. And your home, the home you actually want to finally settle down and live in, not your investment properties. Your investment properties will be owned by smaller LLCs owned by that holding company. So you see, this is the stuff that Glendon never told us, that I'm learning from these law firms. E.D. Cole didn't tell us. It really starts from you having some money. And how you have money is you started that first company. Some of you guys haven't even started that first company. And it doesn't have, that's why I like gig economy, because it automatically, being in gig economy automatically makes you a business owner. Like, even without an LLC, you're a business owner. You're an independent contractor. You know, you're a sole proprietor. You're automatically a business owner. It's just a matter of turning the switch, putting all the liability into an LLC, which technically, I gotta be honest, all Uber and Lyft drivers should do from jump. The only reasons why they don't is they don't have the money. That's truly the main reason why a lot of them don't. Because some of them, if they had the money, they wouldn't do it anyway. But a lot of them, they don't have the money to set things up properly. Because this takes just having an LLC and somebody trying to sue you personally, now they're selling an LLC, which you should have insurance. And if it escalates further, where they try to go after more, that's when the holding company comes into play, because the holding company will own that company in the future. And even if they bring me to court after everything's done, and they'll be like, well, it says here on the paperwork that you're the owner of such and such transportation, which you're never going to put transportation in the name. I'm just using that as an example. It says here you own such and such transportation. No, I sold the company. And here's the document to show. That's the key to having documentation. A lot of people just say they just put it under that holding company. There's no documentation of the sale. There's no transaction of the money. I will have documentation. No, I sold the company to such and such LLC. And then let the lawyer, don't give them any further information. Don't tell them who owns that company, such and such. I'll be like, it's a big corporation. I don't know who actually owns it. I wouldn't recommend you lie, but just be like, just here's the documentation. I sold the company. Don't give them any further information. Now, when they go look up that holding company, they're not going to see what? The owner. They're going to assume it's a bigger company and it's out of state, which is going to make them harder to go after the company. So they're going to take whatever insurance you have on that operational company, take that and be happy and move on with their life. You know, and if you saw the lawsuit coming, you can move. I wouldn't take all your money, but position some of your money out of that account where it's only a bare bone, where it's just enough to pay you, say. But your operational company, because in the beginning your name is on it, everybody knows you're the CEO, president, whatever, you're gonna build more corporate credit on it. And the beauty part about it is when you sell it to your holding company, nothing really changes because you're still the president, CEO. You're just no longer the owner. See what I'm saying? You're still the president. You could be the president and the CEO of a company you don't own. It's just such and such LLC that's in Delaware or Wyoming or wherever you want to set it up where it's anonymous actually owns the company. You see where I'm going with this? And if you set it up right, it'll own, like I say, you set it up as a corporation, and it owns the stocks. It can actually, the holding company could actually own all the ownership stocks of that transportation company. So this is how I'm doing my stuff. I recommend you guys do your stuff. I'm not saying I have all the answers. I'm not saying that. I'm letting you know what happened on my journey and the mistakes I made trying to having anonymity in the beginning. This is kind of what Glendon said. He likes to set up a holding company in his state with no anonymity, but in my opinion, that defeats the whole point of the holding company, because they know that all they got to do is look up and they can see that he owns the holding company and the operation company. The way I'm doing it, you won't see that. Eating Cole didn't teach me this. Glendon didn't teach me this. A few law firms taught me this. One of the law firms doesn't believe in anonymity at all. They believe in letting the insurance and stuff handle everything. But I believe that extra layer of protection is better after you made some money. But right now, what you guys need to be focused on is building your first company and start making some money. Use gig economy or whatever you got to do, your side hustles. Get that money into a business account. That's going to help you build the business credit. That's the beauty about this whole thing. Just putting money in the bank is going to help you along this journey. And I wish I would have learned this sooner, but I'm learning it now. This truly is the way to go about it. And I think Glendon, the problem why he had so much issues with selling his expensive courses and stuff like that is not that his courses weren't good. I know some of you just like him because of the R. Kelly, teenage girl thing, but he had some good points. And I still think he does. The reason I think he hasn't sold a lot of his high-end courses lately, or at all, because he kind of like disappeared from YouTube, or he was putting this information out to people that already have money. When the fact is, most people starting out were watching. Those newbies just watching. I do agree with Glendon on one thing that he used to always say: a business can help you generate money faster than investing. I agree with him on that. Like, I wouldn't focus on investing at all in the beginning. Focus on getting that company going, making $4 to $5 grand a month. It's not a lot of money. I've talked to people on the phone. I used to do strategy sessions on the phone, and I talked to people on the phone, and when I told them $4 to $5 grand a month, they were like, "Really? That's not a lot of money." I was like, "Yeah, but are you making that right now?" They're like, "Oh no." They'll make that on their job, but it doesn't matter if it's your job. That's not helping you get business credit. The money's got to be going into your business for it to help you. And the old school method doesn't really work. Where you just deposit it in, it doesn't really work like that. Unless you're depositing it through another company. Unless you're giving the money to somebody and they're sending it to you in the form of like doing business with that other company. If you just deposit cash into your bank account, that doesn't fool the banks. It doesn't. Because what that does is they look at that as what it really is. You're just depositing cash. Banks like small, weekly, daily, and monthly deposits. Of course, they like big deposits as well, but realistically, the average business doesn't have large deposit going in daily, weekly, and monthly. They have them going in at, less than $1,000. So if you say you're doing gig economy, you're doing DoorDash, you're doing Uber, you're babysitting, have all those people pay your company. Even if you're babysitting, have the person you're working for doing your babysitting, have them actually say, look, I got an LLC set up. Have them wire the money, PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, Zelle, to your business bank account. And I'm going to get into the course all the details about the business name and all that stuff. This is just kind of like that introduction video on why just setting up an operational company makes more sense for most people. Now, if you already got a lot of cash, and when I say a lot of cash, I would say 10 grand or better. Of course, set up the holding company first, then the operational company. But most people don't have that. They just don't. And I think that's where Glendon was going when he was setting up these courses. He was originally talking to people with a lot of money. I think that was the issue. Sorry about the glare. I think that was the real issue he had, because when you're talking with people that with money, but your actual audience is broke, that's where you run into problems. His actual audience was broke, and the reason why I know that is I was his audience. Before I saw ED Cole and didn't have any money, I was so broke that I couldn't even buy Glennon's course. Couldn't even afford his course. Never mind being able to, let me get past this truck, guys. Oh, shit. Never mind being able to set all this stuff up. But I would say the average person that at least has a job, you at least have a job, you can set up an LLC, you could set up a basic operational company, you can manufacture some deposits, because even me, I deposit cash into some of my accounts, because some businesses do make cash. But what I'm saying is it can't be all cash. When I originally set up my holding company, I listened to ED Cole say just deposit $1,000 one month, $2,000 another month. No, they just look at that as a deposit. They don't look at that as you're actually doing business transactions. But if I did $1,000, if I deposited $1,000 cash one day, the next day I got a wire in for $500. The next day $200. The next day $600. It looks like I'm doing normal business transactions. And again, once you get to, you could actually pay out that money. You could be depositing in $5 grand a month, but paying yourself back out $3 grand a month. It's still okay with the banks, because they know the next month you're probably going to deposit more money again. They will give you loans at some point at some banks, loans and lines of credit, just based on that activity. And obviously the higher the activity, the better. You can get it up to Obviously, if you're doing enough and you get it above that $5,000 a month, it's only going to be better. But I'm saying bare minimum. Yeah, I told one of my last calls before I stopped doing them that, yeah, just if you can get a company set up and you're able to do some transactions where you're getting $4,000 to $5,000 a month, that's enough for these banks to lend you money. I would stay away from like high interest lines of credit. Like I wouldn't do the PayPal loan stuff, and I stay away from that stuff unless it's an emergency. But in my case, I stand to get, once this new company is set up for transportation, I stand to get a lot of gas cards. And because I have at least one gas card on the personal side giving me $5,000, and I'm sure at some point I'll get Navy Federal to raise that to $10,000, I probably will be getting gas cards of equal or greater size. So if I got 5 gas cards and they all have $5,000 line of credit on them, you see where I'm going? I'm growing the credit for that company. And I won't even need to use them all. You only need one daily driver, but I would use a bare minimum amount so they see some activity on every card. So maybe use one card 1 week, next card the next week, in small amounts, just so they see some activity going, and pay it all off the following month. This is going to help you grow. And now when you get to the point where you got a credit line of, say, $10,000 that at 0% interest, say, now you can go to a law firm and be like, look, set up my holding company. You see what I'm saying? Set up my living trust. It's gonna cost you a few $1,000s. You pay them the minimum monthly on the card. You're good. Now you say, tell your law firm, actually set up where this company is buying this company and do a transaction with real money. Like I would have it once the credit is big enough, or I'm making enough money is going through my holding company. Let's say I got a large line of credit on my holding company now. Let's say $50,000. I can actually do a sale where the holding company is buying that transportation company, and I can have it where the funds go to the anonymous holding company, and the anonymous holding company sends it back to my living trust to give me a paycheck. So I have a paycheck. I will not take a paycheck from every company, but at some point I may take a paycheck from the transportation company and maybe my living trust, maybe a small check. So you always have a check for your personal needs. And then let's be honest, if you don't have any need for the money on the personal side, put that money back into the company. Because technically, if you do this right, one of your businesses is gonna obviously take care of your cars. You may have another business where you have a uniform, so it's gonna take care of your clothes. You know, they're not gonna question a business buying your clothes if it's an actual uniform with your actual brand name on it, because you're advertising your brand. And if you wear something with your brand every day, now your clothes are taken care of. So you really only need money, personal money, to do what? Maybe eat. likely you're not even doing that because the money's coming from your holding company. It's going to your living trust. That's paying the mortgage. If you want to really look at it. You might just want to have a daily driver card, one card for personal transactions, which you're hardly going to use. Another card with a higher limit for one of the businesses, most likely the transportation company in my case, that I'll probably use even more often than the personal one. Because you're going to manufacture reasons to have dinner with people and it'd be a business expense. Not every dinner, but some big dinners will be a business expense. Your gas, you're very rarely going to use put gas in a personal car because all your cars are going to be owned by your company. And if you're doing videos in a car like this, even in your personal car, your business card can pay for it because it's a business expense. Because I have a media company too, I can literally say, look, I have a media company, I paid for the gas while I was going up down the road to visit my daughter, but I'm doing a video at the same time. So that's a business expense. Like I said, I don't have all the answers, but I'm telling you guys, this is what they're not telling you. That all you need is to make some money first. Stop focusing on the anonymity and the investment stuff. Focus on getting that first company going and making $4 to $5 grand a month and building your corporate and business credit on that first company and on yourself. You want to have some personal credit because you're going to guarantee some lines of credit on that first business, and then you should never have to do it again in the future. Because once you get your holding company going, you're going to be able to go back to those same people that gave you cards on your operational company and be like, yeah, I need a card for my company that owns this company. They're just going to give it to you. I need a separate line for this company. And now that holding company with anonymity is really just should be management. It's going to manage smaller LLCs or businesses. And honestly, I would buy businesses in the future with that holding company. And now you're done. Now you just got to worry about maintaining management in each company. Now I'm getting older, but some of you people, you're only in your 30s or 40s that watch my channel, you got time. Even if you're in them 50s and 60s and you're in relatively good shape, like you think you got some good years in you, I believe I got some good years in me. I got time to build this out. I'm not in any rush. But I got that first company going. I got money going. I'm renting rooms. I'm doing Uber and Lyft. Transitioning to private rides, private deliveries. I think the medical deliveries was really going to get me the real money. I think at some point, the medical deliveries are going to get me to $300 to $400 a day. That's a six-figure business. That's money I could pull out to put a portion of that money into building my holding company, my new holding company, I should say, in my living trust. My only goal the next couple of years, maybe by next year, is to get one investment property. I'm doing this stuff slow. I'm going to get one investment property. That's what I'm going to focus on. Hopefully a 2 to 3 family, live on one floor, make sure my mortgage is paid. that's not going to even be the home that I want to live in long term. So the trust doesn't have to own that. I probably have an LLC under the holding company to own that. But even if I'm not ready for the holding company, I'll just set up an LLC just for that one property and then transfer it over to my holding company once it's built. None of this has to be rushed. I really feel like a lot of the people you see on YouTube, they kind of make you feel like you got to have a lot of money up front to do this stuff. No, you got to have that first company. Got to have that first company built. Make some money. Make something. You know, even if you got a high-paying job, you got to get some of that money over to a LLC or business, because that's going to get higher credit lines than you could even if you got an 800 personal score. Your lines of credit aren't going to be bigger than business lines of credit. And then you want to get to the point where you don't have to guarantee these bigger lines of credit. Now we're done. We can sit back, hopefully enjoy our families. Like, I'm going to see my grandkids today. I got 2 now. I got my daughter just had a newborn baby, 2 girls, and hopefully we can sit back and enjoy life. Hopefully. But I mean, it's an everyday hustle. I spent the last 8 years just trying to build out the media side of all this on YouTube. 8 years. A lot of people don't have that much drive or dedication to even spend the 8 years trying to build out YouTube. And they're younger than me. They don't have the patience. I didn't have the patience when I was younger. But I see the vision for the future, for the near future. I don't necessarily feel like I'm running out of time, even though I'm getting older. I feel like I got, you know, I do want to speed things up a little bit faster, only because I want to have things built out before retirement age. I'm not there yet, but the good thing is a good company, I can frontline a lot of money into retirement. You know, I can get up my own 401k, RA, and because of my age, I can put a lot of money into it. So I can think about the future, get some good whole life. Navy Federal sent me something on a good whole life policy. I gotta start thinking about that stuff. I am getting older. Even though I feel good, you know, I gotta start thinking about that stuff, you know. And I just want to plan a future for my family, honestly, and leave this world knowing that they won't have any money problems like I had. That's all I care about. Maybe you guys care about the same thing, maybe you don't. And then if you get a good whole life policy and you run into a jam, go to your whole life policy, borrow a little bit of money, put it back. That's all part of the plan. All part of the plan. I want to thank you guys for listening to me ramble. We got through it, even though I had a lot of sun glare through most of it. I apologize for that. If you want more videos like this, all you gotta do is subscribe to the channel. Check out my rideshare channel, Nice Guy Driver. And check out my other finance channel, Blame Drake. And I'm gonna see you guys in the next one.